All right, now let's talk about Spain's new favorite geopolitical headache, which is
Donald Trump
and NATO.
and NATO together.
So together, that's not a good combo. For those of you listening at home, Spain has been one of the laggards for a long time when it comes to defense budgets. For years, we've spent just over 1% of GDP on our military. But this year, for the first time ever, Spain, in theory, actually reached the 2%
2%.
Goal set by NATO back in 2014, when Russia annexed Ukraine. By the way, that was supposed to be the benchmark of all the allies by 2024, right? Madrid even had to fast track that spending, adding more than 10 billion euros to its defense budget to meet the target ahead of schedule. Now, that would have normally been seen as a diplomatic win, but Donald Trump has not been making things easier for us, because he's now back in the White House and he's playing a new version of The Apprentice, NATO edition. What's up with that? Why is suddenly Donald Trump so fixated on Spain hitting its 5%? Of GDP budget for defense budget?
I mean, I think you can roll the question back to who Trump is. I think he, as a deal maker, he looks at this as a way to prove that he's not getting screwed, that the U.S. is not paying more than his fair share. And historically, the U.S. has paid a lot more than other countries into NATO.
But the U.S. is not paying 5% now. It's paying 3 point
right
something.
But
right?
For years, the other NATO companies were paying 2%
right.
less. I mean, at one point, Spain was paying in less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
So I think he for him, this is a way of showing that he's being a good deal maker and making sure that NATO countries are paying their fair share. And in that sense, it's just like The Apprentice. He would yell, "You're fired," to Pedro Sánchez if he could.
Right. But over the summer, Trump convinced the other NATO members to raise the spending to 5% of their GDP. And a lot of them said yes, that they would do it. They're not doing it yet.
In fact, all except one.
Right. And Spain is the only one that said, no, we're not going to do it.
That's correct.
And this is why he's got it out for Pedro Sánchez. But how many of those countries have actually started doing anything to hit that goal?
I mean, you've seen a big difference between the countries depending where they're located. The countries on the border with Russia,
like Poland,
or the Baltics, or Finland are now putting a lot of money into their defense because they actually have a personal reason to want to defend themselves. While Southern European countries, especially Spain, Portugal, Greece, tend not to put as much money in. But everyone agreed to raise that to their defense spending to 3.5%, at plus 1.5% on things that could be related to defense, with the knowledge that most of them actually wouldn't.
I have to
put
so
there.
Somewhat related to defense, but like, has anyone actually done any of that, or are they just saying that to appease Donald Trump?
Oh, both. They've done a little bit, and they're doing it to appease Donald Trump, knowing that by the time they actually have to make that raise, in theory, won't be in office anymore. So they'll start moving up, and they'll just say they were doing it.
Right. And I think that the problem with Sanchez is that he's the only one that said,
no, I won't do it.
Right. And now Trump is threatening to apply special tariffs on Spain, which is something that he can't do.
Well, I mean, that is the big question here. When you talk about punishment, what does he mean?
Right. But like, he's floated the idea of maybe applying special tariffs to Spain, but because Spain is part of the EU, he should not be able to.
Right. It's just one state in the Union.
It's just one state in the Union.
So he could figure out tariffs on Spanish products. You could have massive olive tariffs if you wanted to.
Right.
But or charge American tourists who go to Spain taxes on their spending in Spain. But there's not much you can do.
Why is Sanchez saying no to this? Why is he refusing to comply with Trump? Why doesn't he want to do 5%?
I mean, I think you can look at this just in local politics. This is Sanchez playing to people, other parties in his coalition or parties that support him in the local government, knowing that they won't let him raise defense spending anyway. And so it helps him with a certain voter on the left. It's local politics that is determining this. It has little, if anything, to do with Donald Trump, other than it makes him look like he's standing up to Donald Trump, to his local voters.
Right. That's what I was going to ask, because there's been a lot of talks, even in the international press, saying that Sanchez is positioning himself as the anti-Trump on the other side of the Atlantic. Is this part of that strategy?
Yeah, of course. It's easy to do. You say you're not going to spend money on this. Trump says negative things about you, so you look like you're fighting with the big orange man, and then nothing happens.
But also, to what extent can Trump, or does Trump want to move forward with this war? I mean, we here in Spain, there's 2 U.S. military bases, Rota and Moron, in Andalusia. I've been surprised by how sort of like friendly, quote unquote, Trump has been with Sanchez until now, when they're pretty much antithetical with each other. Right. So is this why? Is Trump suddenly being not as aggressive towards Sanchez because of the U.S.'s military interests in Spain?
Oh, I mean, I think this is an easy fight for either of them to have, and doesn't cost either of them a lot of support or money, if you will. What also needs to be noted is that most of the time this comes up and Trump makes vague threats to Spain, it's in response to a question asked by one journalist in the Spanish press corps who's assigned to Washington.
Right. So it's not like this is something that's in his mind.
No,
regularly.
He's not constantly obsessed with Andalusia.
Right. And in fact, when they were together in Egypt for the peace accords between Israel and Palestine, he seemed to be somewhat congratulatory of Pedro Sánchez, or that's what it sounded like when he said, "You guys are doing a good job." But it wasn't really clear whether he was talking about Sánchez or he was talking about the people negotiating with Sánchez in order to get...
Or with the other people in the room.
Or with the other people in the room. Where are we with that? Because it seemed to be, there was a handshake. They seemed to be very friendly with each other. It was all smiles. And then just one day later, he's back at, "I'm very disappointed with Spain. Spain is not
a team player.
Not a team player." So where is this going? We've seen the EU respond that it was going to defend Spain in case Trump tried to apply.
All tariffs have to be applied through the EU, not on individual countries.
Right. And they were like, they would respond appropriately, basically saying, "Don't test us," which is, interesting coming from the EU, when suddenly, lately, the EU has always sort of like bowed their heads to Trump. So where does this go? How does it end? Does it end? Or do we just keep fighting?
No, I think we keep having small arguments here and there and in random press briefings, and then move on. I don't think it has to end.
We remember that a few weeks ago we compared Sanchez to Trump, and some of his strategies we said that mirrored some of Donald Trump's.
Yeah, the use of sort of distraction.
Right. Is this kind of like benefiting both of them?
Yeah. It benefits. It makes Sanchez look like he's a bigger political player than he may be, standing up to the U.S., standing up to Trump. And it makes Trump appear serious about NATO spending and protecting the U.S. Treasury or U.S. treasure from freeloaders. And everybody's happy at the end of the day.
Well, is everybody happy? First of all, let me ask, do Spaniards care about this debate? Do Spaniards care about the fact that Trump and Sanchez are picking fights and about hitting 5% of the GDP? Or is this kind of like a Madrid, Brussels, DC thing that no one else cares about?
Oh, I think for example, that Sanchez's voters in the PSOE are probably happy and are, proud of their leader for standing up to Donald Trump. It provides a a talking point in the running battle between the soy and the pepe, because the pepe will say, look what you're doing. The U.S. is threatening us. You're going to get squished. You're going to have terrible things are going to happen to our country because of you picked this stupid fight. And Trump gets to make some jokes in press conferences, and make Mark Rutte look uncomfortable, which is something he really seems to enjoy doing.
So Trump even said or floated the idea of kicking Spain out of NATO. Right?
Yeah, that can't happen.
Which is not going to happen.
No.
Spain has been a member of NATO for what, like 43 years?
I think it was under Felipe González.
Yeah, I think it was in 1982, and coincidentally back then I think PSOE didn't.
They were against it before they were for it, if you will.
Right, and now we are all in.
We're all in
NATO.
It's all good.
So, I guess all we have to do is just wait and see what happens.
Exactly.
Basically,
and we'll see if we get large tariffs on olives.
I hope we don't.
Or for us.